China's economy is witnessing a transition from high growth to high quality development. And that is also illustrated by China's outreach to the global south and indeed to the world. For instance, out of 193 members of the United Nations, 130 countries have more trade with China than they have with the United States. And in 2024, China posted the highest ever trade surplus of any country, a whopping $1 trillion. So I would like to ask Mr. Saqib, how do you see China's transition from high growth to high quality development?
So thank you so much to you and to CGTN for this great initiative. Yeah, about your question on, I think the transition from the high growth to high quality growth. I think this is very important for China, and I think it's a very wise decision. Basically, what it is doing is that China is now emphasizing quality over quantity. And that is what probably some people outside China do not really understand very well, or probably even if they understand, they misuse it. So China's emphasis is on technology, innovation, and intelligent manufacturing, basically. That is what the quality over quantity happens. And probably because when you are transitioning from the quantity to quality, the growth sometimes slows down. It has to slow down for some time to come. So you look at if the numbers of the global of the Chinese GDP, they have reduced, but that does not mean that they have reduced for good or China is getting into some kind of a economic recession. But this is because of the transition. These numbers have to go down, and they will come up again sooner or later. The other things which China is doing, that the financial reforms are happening, domestic consumption, they are trying to increase, the social security spendings have increased, and they are working on HR quality. So whatever China is doing as of today, from moving, this is a very important initiative, number of important initiatives by China, and it is kind of a learning experience for other developing countries which have not reached the level of China but will be reaching at the level of China's growth, and should follow this China's model of development. Probably that is what unnerves the West and USA especially. And maybe if you look at it, there are a lot of talks about Chinese deceleration of economy and all. So this is what I have to say.
Thank you. I think there were very useful insights that how China's transition is being made. I was reading, I remember last year, the Economist magazine published from London, and they had the cover story, China, the scientific superpower. And they said that China is now competing and is far ahead of many countries in the West, plus Japan, in science and technology. Artificial intelligence, 5G, robotics, cloud computing. But at the same time, Monsieur Bertrand, we see in the West voices of gloom and doom, doomsday scenario, nitpicking on Chinese data that, oh, the property boom is no longer there. This is the problem, that is the problem. And I just mentioned the trade surplus. So how do you view this Chinese transition from high growth to high quality development and its implications globally? Monsieur Arnaud Bertrand.
Yes, there is a bit of a paradox because on one hand, you have the sort of China collapse narrative, which a lot of media like to write about, especially The Economist, by the way. I think I calculated at some point how many covers they did on this very topic, predicting the collapse of China, and I think I arrived at above 10 in the past 20 years. So it's a common theme. So on one hand, there is the theme, but on the other hand, you can see that the West is simultaneously very worried about China's rise. And that's very clear through their actions that they are taking to contain China's rise. So, for instance, you can see all the measures that the US is taking, export controls for the semiconductors, or banning Chinese EVs, putting 100% tariffs, which is the same as banning. All measures like that, which are quite inconsistent with China that would be collapsing. It's more consistent with China that is actually rising economically, on which they feel threatened by, basically. On the transition, back to your question, from high growth to high quality development, I think that China is at a pivotal moment. And it's indeed a pretty complicated moment for the Chinese economy, because they're changing model. Up until recently, they were focusing on manufacturing for Western or foreign companies. As we all know, it was the factory of the world. And a large part of their economy was also based on real estate, which was between around 25 to 30% of GDP. And they are shifting that by basically going up the value chain. So instead of manufacturing for others, they are more and more starting to manufacture for themselves, becoming the brand.
Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Ricardo in Brazil. So amidst all these US-China trade friction, how do you see China maintaining that economic stability and its impact on different parts of the global south, particularly your continent?
Actually, as you well said, the relationship between China and the Latin American countries are increasing tremendously. You can see, like last year in 2024, China and Brazil celebrated 50 years of diplomatic ties, and our trade, the import and export, was of 157.4 billion US dollars in 2023, and 2024, 157.9 billion US dollars. It's a big volume, not only talking about trade, but also foreign direct investments. And China is fighting to reform the global governance and to regain multilateralism. As you can see, now the global South countries is starting to gain voices and also muscles. So we are trying to make a different move from the previous the World Economic Order. And for that, China is implementing not only the Belt and Road Initiative, but also is developing bilateral and multilateral trades, as well as discussing within international blocks such as the BRICS, how we can have alternatives. So China is doing a great job in this term, and we can see with several different initiatives, such as what happened so far since Deng Xiaoping opened the market and promoted the reform in 1978. From 1978 until 2020, China successfully took out 770 million people out of poverty. And this number is not was not calculated by Chinese institutions. The World Bank informed this tremendous successful goal of taking so many people out of poverty. So again, China, for sure, with 1.4 billion people, will face several challenges, not only these current ones, but also in the near future. But they are doing a great job in order to have in 2049, when China will celebrate its 100 years of its foundation, a very solid and strong country.